All right. Half a day and good afternoon. The Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, Housing is now called to order. For the record, today is Tuesday, June 14, 2022, and the time now is 2:01. Notice for this budget hearing were disseminated via email to all senators, all main media broadcasting outlets. First public notice were issued on Friday, June 3rd, then June 8th, and then June 9th, and then June 13th. The committee will now hear Bill 276-36 COR from the Committee on Rules by request of I Maga'hågan Guåhan, the Governor of Guam, in accordance with the Organic Act of Guam, an act making appropriation for the operation of the executive branch of the Governor of Guam for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2023, making other appropriation and establishing miscellaneous and administrative provisions relative to the alternate public defender and the Public Defender Service Corp. I'd like to recognize my colleagues that have joined me this afternoon. We have the Oversight Chair, Speaker Teresa Lai, and Senator Tello Taidewi. And probably other colleagues will be joining us later. Those testifying on Bill 276-36 relative to the alternate Public Defender and Public Defender Service Corp are invited to the panel. When we begin, we'll end up starting with the alternate Public Defender. After their testimony, we'll have the Public Defender Service testify and present their budget, and then we'll open the floor for questions, and then we can take care of both groups at the same time. All right? General rules of this budget hearing shall be as follows. Written testimony shall be submitted to the committee. Please provide my legislative staff with written testimony for photocopying. Testimony may be read, and lengthy testimony should be summarized to about 5 minutes, but you'll be allowed more than 5 minutes to do your testimony, all right? Those testifying will be allowed to present oral testimony. Once you're done, please remain in the room for questions or for additional testimony as may be desired by members of the committee. Question and testimony shall be confined to the agenda, which is the budget of the alternate public defender and the public defender. All right? Personal inference as to the character or the motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. Any violation of the general rule of conduct will result in the removal from the budget hearing. If any of you feel, maybe the senators or the panel feel that there's some personal inference, please raise your hand and then we'll try to recognize that and resolve it before I have the individuals removed. Okay? Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room. For this proceeding, individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum will be restricted from providing oral testimony and will be removed from the room. When you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on, that you speak into the microphone. Other questions may be submitted to the committee for submission to the agency or the appropriate agency. Please state your name and title for the record. At this time, I'd ask the panel members from the alternate Public Defender and Public Defender Service Corp to please rise while the Sergeant at Arms will swear you in for your testimony.
Please raise your right hand. Under penalty of perjury, you all affirm that any and all information you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Mr. Chair, you may proceed to under oath.
Thank you, Sergeant at Arms. I would also like to recognize the presence of Senator Amanda Shelton. Now we will begin with Mrs. Gale from the Public Defenders, the alternate Public Defender. And then after you, or whatever you present, then I'll have the Public Defenders Service Corp do their presentation, then we'll just begin the question. All right? Ma'am, please, you have the floor. Do you have any PowerPoint you're going to present?
No.
Okay, you're going to take the simple route. All right.
Simple.
Thank you. Please go ahead and begin.
Good afternoon, Senator San Agustin and fellow senators. My name is Ms. Gale, Anna Maria Gale, and I'm here to present Alternate Public Defenders 2023 Budget Request. It's pretty much a rollover request. The percentage that we go up is simply for organic growth. We do have, we did add one purchase for this upcoming fiscal year, which would have been security cameras for our office, and that we have security cameras, but it's to upgrade and maintain them. But that's the only thing that we've added for this year's budget. Everything else has been a mandated growth from the life insurance, all those things, all the organic growth. We did put in the 7% for the law enforcement. And we did put in 6% across the board for the rest of the staff, and that was in line with what the public defender and the judiciary are doing, following the studies that they have done for the employees of APD. But everything else it's just a rollover. So I do have a letter that I did prepare a letter, but in an abundance of caution and just allowing the public defender more time to present their budget. Nothing new to add. The only thing is, we've still had to just accommodate what the COVID-19 has done. Just to make the senators aware, we did not get any of the ARP money. So we have nothing to do with any of the federal funds. So I'm not going to answer the questions that we were told to answer in our opening would be anything to do with the Governor's American Rescue Plan. We have nothing to do with that, so you don't have to worry about that. Everything else, we've taken care of all our projects, nothing left for 2022, which these are the questions that we were told to put in our opening, but we really don't have anything to add to it. We believe that the 2023 budget request does represent the true needs of the department to meet our core mission and our objectives. Our request this year is for $1.536 million, which is about 10% more than we asked for in 2022.
All right. And you have no prior year obligations?
No, we've taken care of all of those, and if we do have anything left outstanding, it either stays in, or if a public defender needs any of it for their budgetary needs, they are able to use anything we have left over for their needs if the legislature hasn't given them enough for their needs.
Sharing is caring, right?
That's
there you
correct.
Go. Okay. And that completes your presentation. Then we'll move to the public defender, which I know they have slides. They got a lot of pictures for us. Sir.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Madam Speaker, Senator Shelton, Senator Taitagui. My name is Stephen Notori. I'm the current Executive Director for the Public Defender Service Corporation. And I am here before you with Kathy Gogui, our Administrative Director, and John Morrison, our Deputy Director, and Joyce Tresipona, who's filling in for our financial guy, but she should have all our financial answers. Anyways, first, before I begin, I would really like to thank you for allowing us to defend our budget this year. Last year, we weren't given a chance to defend our budget, and they kind of underfunded us less than what we had requested, and but fortunately, you gave us the authority to use unexpended monies, right? And so we were able, between us and APD, we were able to make ends meet last year. So we really appreciate the chance to defend our budget this year. Now, through our testimony today, we will outline the value the public defender provides and why a 22% increase is necessary for our proposed budget of $5.7 million that will help maintain and expand the high-quality indigent defense services we provide. The corporation recognizes that each budget year presents difficult and significant challenges, especially as we are hopeful transitioning from a pandemic, to an endemic situation. Today, the PDSC provides legal services to almost 80% of the criminal cases that are opened. We had 1,185 cases last year, and these do not include our juvenile caseloads. We represent adults and youth charged with violations of the Guam Criminal Code from arrest through appeal, the violations of probation, and children who have been arrested and involved with delinquency proceedings. We similarly provide specialty representation to clients who are in the specialty courts like Adult Drug Court. They have 3 different programs, Adult Drug Court 1, 2, and 3, our Family Violence Court, our Juvenile Drug Treatment Court, our Mental Health Court, our Veteran Treatment Court, our DWI treatment, and our Guam Adult Reentry Program. And this is just our criminal representation. On the civil side of things, we have our Elder Justice Center, which really we could not have started without the support of the legislature, as well as the administration. And we provide legal services to Manonco. We also have our Advocacy Center, funded by GCO, FPO, and the STOP grant program, in which we seek protective and restraining orders in cases involving domestic violence. In 2021, we opened about 75 protective order cases last year. We also continue to obtain guardianships to ensure juveniles have the support they need to be successful. We wrapped up our work with the quarantine cases. We were representing travelers for pretty much the entire time that the quarantine was ongoing. And we are regularly appointed for defendants who are being extradited to other jurisdictions, as well as residents who are being civilly committed to Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center. Our work also includes representation of people involved in involuntary mental health proceedings, like incompetent guardianships, and dependent and neglected children through PINS cases, persons in needs of services. We also continue to assist World War II Loyalty Act claimants and heirs. PDSC continues to remain quite busy for the work we do for Guam's less fortunate residents. I think last year we opened about 21 to 25 World War II Loyalty Act claimant proceedings. Proud of our work, the PDSC team is currently gratified by providing the best defense that money can't buy, and serving as a value-added service to our clients, your constituents, that we diligently defend. I'm really proud of the way our team has stepped up over the last couple of years to ensure our clients are well represented without impeding the quality of services we provide. In addition to the defense work over the course of the fiscal year, we were also able to accomplish the following. One of the problems we had early on was toll-free access for our detained clients through PayTel. So there was a period of time when our indigent clients were required to use their PayTel accounts to contact their lawyer. We found this unconscionable, and with the support of the legislature in Public Law 3637, the Inmate Phone Access Fund was created, and it used revenue generated by PayTel. So PayTel pays, I think it's like 20% of their revenue into an account at DOA. That money has been set aside now into this fund and is being used to pay for free attorney calls for public defender, APD, and private attorney clients. So we think that that's kind of a big deal, especially as the Department of Corrections has been undergoing lockdowns periodically throughout the year, right? Another thing we're really we're happy about is the Edward Byrd Memorial Justice Assistance Grant, the Access to Counsel program. I don't know if you remember, a couple years ago I was talking about we wanted to set up Zoom interview rooms with our clients, right? And hopefully one day visitation will be provided through these Zoom rooms, right? Well, we didn't get that far, but we did get a small grant of about $20-some thousand, and we've set up Zoom rooms at every correctional facility on island so that attorneys for our office, APD, and eventually the private attorney panel can meet their clients through video conferencing. And so we're really excited about that program. It's almost up, but we're hoping we can get a no-cost extension to fund the program for an additional year. We finalized our court-ordered representation of quarantined travelers. I mean, while we weren't seeking more work during the pandemic, we were ordered by the Superior Court of Guam to represent travelers regardless of their income qualifications.
Mr. Torre, would you want to do your slides and then while you're speaking, because I'm noticing that your slide presentation almost basically speaks what your letter has. I mean, I'm not too sure if, because as I'm following along, I'm seeing it on your PowerPoint.
The highlights for the slide presentation, we're not even going to cover that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's providing the details.
All right. Okay, then go ahead and continue.
No, I'll
then.
summarize it because I know that
All right. Okay.
these are lengthy paragraphs. You guys have my written testimony as well. One of the other things we're really excited about is the Sixth Amendment Center. They'll be coming to Guam, hopefully in October. It's a national organization that evaluates public defense systems across the country. They've done over 48 jurisdictions, 48 states, as well as most of the territories. And so they're going to evaluate public defender, APD, the private attorney panel, and to ensure that it complies with the best practices as recommended by the American Bar Association. So we received support from that from the Speaker, thank you, as well as the Governor and the Chief Justice as we pursue that technical assistance grant. And of course, our real shining star is the opening of the Elder Justice Center. Through funds provided by the American Recovery Plan Act, we were able to augment funds received by public health. We receive about $192,000 from public health, and to provide limited service to our manuncos. We find that the staffing needs to fully service our seniors was greater than required by the provided by the 192. So we were able to obtain some Arpa money, and we're using that to supplement the staffing. And so right now, the Elder Justice Center, they're fully operational. We've also transferred, or we're in the process of transferring our protective order cases there, because they'll have 2 attorneys and a paralegal. And between those 2 attorneys and paralegal, we believe they'll be able to fully service our manumco as well as our victims of domestic violence. And so we're really happy about that. Other things we're working on, of course, is our attorney performance standards for juvenile and adults, and we're hoping to complete those within this fiscal year. And finally, our work with the Guam World War II Loyalty Recognition Act. We have been opening probate matters for them at no cost to the claimants and the heirs of the claimants. And we've been working out the kinks of the program. But we are opening cases and helping people get their war claims awards. Okay. Now, as we strive to be good stewards of limited funds, we urge this esteemed body to end the inequities of our workforce and provide adequate funding for PDSC to fairly compensate our entire team, legal and non-legal staff, prior to DOA's completion of the Competitive Wage Act. If DOA is conducting another wage study, we have not been invited to participate. We were not invited to participate in the law enforcement compensation study, and we have not been invited to participate in any of the wage studies that are currently ongoing. For this reason, we have had a difficult time recruiting for our clients' frontliners, our secretaries and attorneys. When we eventually fill attorneys, we lose team members to the Attorney General's office or the autonomous agencies that either have a less stressful workload or higher salaries. Consequently, the $5.7 million we are requesting for the upcoming fiscal year will help us fund minimal salary increases for not just law enforcement personnel, but for attorneys and administrative support staff as well. What we are suggesting, similar to the Judiciary Guam request, is compensating non-law enforcement staff at 6%, a 6% increase, and our law enforcement staff will get a 7% increase. This suggested increase will address pay parity that would have occurred if we stayed in line with the executive branch of providing an 18% increase for law enforcement personnel. And so it would have been difficult for us to justify asking for an 18% raise just for one small group of our staff when the rest of our staff also deserves some compensation. Our board has approved this request, and it should mirror a similar one being recommended by the Guam Judiciary. Now, addressing shared budget interests within GovGuam by the legislature, we would like to report that we have no prior year obligations for personnel services. A majority of the supplies and equipment for FY2022 have been adequately programmed and procured. We currently have no capital outlay projects at this time, but hope one day soon that we will be in a position to report such outlay for a building of our own. And what that's a reference to is, eventually we want to be able to apply for a community block development grant. We understand that because most of our, well, all of our clients really are financially indigent, that GURA and the community block development grant may be a funding source for an office building that will eliminate rental costs in the future. Relative to federal grants, we were awarded as a sub-grantee from Public Health the Legal Assistance Service Program of $192,144. We also received a substantial amount from the American Rescue Plan Act, $1,572,873, that will be fully expended by the end of calendar year 2024. Our understanding is that the deadline to spend is actually it might be the end of 2026, as long as it's encumbered by the end of calendar year 2024. So with the money that we've received, we believe we'll be able to keep our civil division completely funded up and through the end of the fiscal year 2024. So the money from public health for the 6 month of implementation, for the Elder Justice Center was barely enough to run the office. It really only provided for an attorney and one staff member. Today, with additional money from ARPA funds, PDSC is able to right-size the Elder Justice Center and assist our Manunco, the bedrock of our community. So right now we have we're going to have 2 attorneys. We have a law clerk, we have a victim advocate, and then like 3 other, maybe 2 other personnel. So it's basically an office of 6 individuals that's servicing our Manunco as well as taking care of our victims of domestic violence. Proud of the services we provide at this center, we are hopeful that we can anticipate funding of the EJC moving into fiscal year 2025. In terms of vacancies, we have filled or are in the process of filling the 9 vacancies that we currently have. We anticipate filling them no later than mid-July. We have closed several openings in the last few weeks, and so we anticipate interviewing at least 3 secretaries in the next week or so, and then we need 3 front office clerks. We recently hired an attorney, and we anticipate a recent law school grad returning to Guam and working for us. So for the first time, I feel hopeful that we're going to close our continuous announcements for our legal secretaries and attorneys. Finally, I know that the Chairman St. Augustine likes that word, right? Finally. So I'm at the end of my testimony. We would be remiss if we did not propose amendments to the FY23 Budget Act, Bill 27636. Actually, when I first read it, I kind of freaked out because we're not even mentioned in that bill, but we understand it's just the starting point. Anyways, we would like the ability to hire retired attorneys. We ask the legislature to use the identical language from last year's budget bill, Section 10 of Chapter 12 of Public Law 3654. The language currently found in the proposed budget bill unnecessarily limits the hiring of retired attorneys to tax enforcement and prosecution. Even the AG's office relies upon retired attorneys in their civil, solicitors, and child support divisions. We hope that they would support this amendment as well. We also ask that the unexpended balance of the budget appropriations not lapse and be available for budget shortfalls for either PDSC or APD. Given the 2022 funding level, it is not expected that PDSC will have any funds that should lapse or could lapse. My understanding is that APD, they've been frugal and they've been able to, there might be some lapse funds there. In the budget bill 3654 of last year, this body limited the general transfer authority of the governor so that the governor couldn't transfer funds out of certain agencies, including the Public Defender Service Corporation. So we're hoping that the legislature copies that same provision from last year's budget. And finally, we're asking for the legal authority be granted to the Public Defender Service Corporation Board of Trustees to allow our board to review, adjust, and adopt pay scales that take into account the unique service we provide the people of Guam and consistent with that authorized by the Guam Judiciary and other autonomous agencies. This would also permit our board to provide a differential salary for criminal defense attorneys to assist in retention and recruitment. So with these provisions included in the FY23 Budget Act, we believe that the Public Defender Service Corporation will be able to continue advocating for Guam's less fortunate, underrepresented, marginalized citizens in our community. As many of our clients feel a social worker as a part of our team, we're indebted to the legislature for seeing a need to include a social worker as part of our team through the passage of our 2020 budget. I remember it was a position we had intended to freeze, and then the senators urged us to fill it because of the need, right? Well, the social worker we did hire, Rose Rages, was named the Social Worker of the Year by the Guam chapter of the National Association of Social Workers. She's really helped us provide a more holistic defense for our clients. We feel that if we can help our clients get back on their feet, that the chance of recidivism will go down. And so we're hoping that she'll be able to expand our program. Now, celebrating Gideon Wainwright's 59th anniversary, the case that created the right to counsel, and as a direct service agency, 86% of our budget is spent on personnel services, with the remaining 14% supporting operational costs. We remain extremely proud of the work of all of our assistant public defenders and support staff, their work ethic, dedication to the PDSC mission, and their willingness to handle the daily challenges of serving our client population. All clients we serve are victims of poverty. Justice has always been an illusory concept for the poor and disenfranchised. COVID-19 has only exacerbated these challenges. While virtual court efficiencies have offered benefits to certain clients, the loss of personal interactions and the expansion of a virtual court system and virtual communication system often damages the core attorney-client relationship, which is essential to quality representation and trust in the system. Creating and maintaining that relationship in the face of these challenges creates more work for our already overworked assistant public defenders. However, in this current environment, the PDSC team, to an even greater degree than usual, has been working with the Department of Corrections, the Department of Youth Affairs, the Judiciary of Guam, as well as the Attorney General's Office to organize client contact, Zoom hearings, trial scheduling, and other judicial processes for the benefit of our clients. Since our office represents the majority of individuals charged criminally in the Superior Court of Guam, we are the voice of the criminally accused in the operational systems within our remote island community. And as we are mindful of GovGuam's revenue and collections, PDSC has a long history of presenting a modest budget to the Guam legislature, which is really less than 1% of the overall GovGuam appropriated budget. We do this for our underrepresented clients. We believe our budget is quite reasonable, and we look forward to discussing our financial requirements for the upcoming fiscal year. Thank you for your time.
Slides, please. No, I promise you, I'll be short. I gave him the more difficult job of reading that long testimony. My name is Kathy Gogui. I'm the Administrative Director of Public Defender, and I'll go over our budget requirements for FY 2023. Next slide. We'll go over highlights. I promise you I'm not going to detail them because the executive director did all that. We'll go over comparisons. We'll talk about our personnel requirements as well as our operational requirements for FY 2022. And with those operational requirements, we'll give you the line item budgets. Next slide. While Executive Hattori highlighted what we did for the last fiscal year, I added number 9. And this is important to note because I think Stephen is the only executive director throughout the nation who has a caseload, a huge caseload, as well as does work administratively for the office. I mean, the accomplishments we've done over the past several years is amazing. And so I just wanted to note that while he does work with the legislature, providing testimony in support of various bills, he also has the highest caseload in our office. Next slide. We also thought this slide was important to share with you folks what our budget is in comparison to the general fund. In FY 2019, we were 0.6%, not even 1%. In FY 2020, we're 0.7. In FY 2021, 0.71. In FY 2022, 0.75, and in FY 2023, if we got what we think we're getting based on projections, we're still less than 1% of our total of GovGuam's total general fund budget. Next slide, please. As Executive Director Hattori pointed out, we would require 4.6 million in personnel costs, which is 81%. We're requesting for a pay adjustment of 6% for administrative support staff and attorneys, and 7% for law enforcement. We held off. We have not paid out the 18% in that executive order by the governor. They did say that it would be up to the Judicial Council or our board for us to implement the 18%. We decided to hold off until we got the adequate funding for the entire team. And then operations, we're looking at 800,000, which is I'm sorry, let me go back to the pay adjustment. We're looking at 309,000, or a 5% increase to our budget for a pay adjustment. And then in operations, we're asking for 14%, which is 800,000 for operations. Next slide, please. Here we provide in this slide what we're asking, our FY22 compared to FY 2021 in terms of personnel cost, and we're asking for a 19% increase. Our vacancies, I know that Executive Director Hattori mentioned that we have 9 vacancies. We actually have 8. We just filled our investigator slot 2 weeks ago. That was vacant, so we're down to 8 vacancies. And as Executive Director Hattori did mention, for the first time, we're seeing that our announcements for legal secretaries as well as attorneys are not going to be open and continuous. I think that we're at a really great point. We're able to get folks to actually apply for positions. I still believe that for our legal secretaries and our attorneys whose caseloads are quite higher than the AG's office, preparation work for our clients. We have clients that we do need to meet either in jail or at our office. The preparation for trial or the caseload, it requires more time for us to prepare our cases against the AGs. Next slide. We had, based on mandated, our mandated costs for benefits and retirement, we came up with a figure of 4,815, and we just used one of our classes, an investigator 2. So we came up with our organic growth for 62 employees. And so what we're looking at, next slide, for organic growth is almost 300,000 for organic growth. Next slide. And then again, our pay adjustment, 6% for non-law enforcement and 7% for law enforcement. Next slide. For operations, as I mentioned, we're looking at a 14% increase for a total of 5.7 million. Next slide. And while it seems like a, next slide. And although the increase seems significant, the fact that we weren't funded based on our budget request for FY 2022, we're going to go back in and decided to ask what we really need to run the office. So we're looking at a 38% increase. Next slide. For contractual services, here you have each line item that we are requesting for increases. It's in your slide. I know that the largest one highlighted would be the $104,500. We have to pay for, we have a case management system called Abacus, and what we've been transitioning with our cases over the past couple of years is all of our hard copy files are now all digitized. So we're eventually, so when an attorney is meeting with their clients, all they need to do is go into our case management system, Abacus, or the secretaries, investigators, and they can give you real time of what we're doing in terms of helping our client through their legal procedures or processes. And so I know that 104 is a lot of money. What we're looking at is from that amount, 55 are for licenses, and we're looking at like close to 90,000 to bring that in the cloud. And we've actually had our system, which is not cloud-based yet, where we were hacked, and we had to, I can't remember if we paid a fee, but I know that we had to, because we were hacked, we weren't able to get to our cases. So what had to happen is we started where we did do a backup with our hard drive, and so we were probably a couple of months behind because we're not in the cloud. So we really believe an investment is necessary at this juncture so that we can be cloud-based for our case management system. Next slide. This is what we're due for to go out on an IFB for our office space that we're currently in right now. We put in for an increase just in case our landlord decides to increase our rent. We projected at $2 per square foot, and we're hoping that that's what we'll get, where we cover about maybe close to 12,000 square feet. We're very blessed to have our utilities paid for with our rent, and we're hoping that we can get somewhere close to what we've had in FY21 and 22 in terms of our rent per month. And as Executive Director Hattori mentioned, we really want to buy a building or build a building, and so our program coordinator just shared with us before walking in that we have an appointment with, I think it's GORA for the block grant, and hopefully we're able to build something like, you know, how Sinahaya's got the gymnasium, or that Chanapaco's having a community center. We're hoping that we're going to be blessed one day to build something of our own so that we are no longer renting from a private entity. Next slide. In terms of supplies, we show a slight increase, but that's with our activity. In terms of access to council grant for our supplies and material, and then the Justice Assistant Technical and Assistance grant support that we hope to launch in October of 2022. We know that these TTAs, although we get their expertise to help us improve efficiencies in our office, we know that there's going to be work on the ground side before they come that will cost us additional money, so we've asked for an increase of 12%. Next slide. In terms of equipment, we've actually are asking for a decrease in equipment. What we've done through the pandemic is we have an aging system in terms of an aging schedule for our computers. So over the past, at the start of 2020, when we went into the pandemic, we actually replaced some of our obsolete equipment. So we don't need as much money that we have, but we're staying with our aging schedule of replacing equipment, and you know, what we're finding is laptops and tablets are not as expensive as they used to be when we had put our budget together in FY21, 22. So we're asking for a decrease in what we need in terms of equipment. Next slide. Miscellaneous, this is I outlined as to what we are spending in terms of miscellaneous. What we haven't done, and we didn't do because we were short for FY 2022, and we haven't done this in a while. And I know I've shared with the senators before in the past. What we've done was, rather than we send our attorneys or team members for training, we bring a trainer to Guam, and we fund this trainer to do training for our attorneys so that they're up to speed with their defense work. And so we also include alternate public defender, and we also include the private attorney panel to this training, and we'd really like to see that happen for FY 2023. Next slide. And so what we're looking at in terms of an increase in operations is $220,042. As I mentioned, a bulk of that would be for us going cloud-based for Abacus. And so we hope that we get the support of the legislature to provide that increase. Next slide. Next slide, please. I thought it was important that we put this slide in as well because it just shows what we go up against in terms of public defender compared to just prosecution and their administrative support team for the AG's office. I didn't dissect the entire AG's office. If you can see from the first column where it says public defender, we have a total of 47 staff members who provide fiscal, HR, records processing. So we have 47 in that compared to AGs, and this is just their administrative support staff. I didn't go pull out their investigators or administrative support staff in the other sections like child support, solicitors. I just went with the administrative support staff and then prosecution. For assistant public defenders, and this is just our adult attorneys, we have 12. They have 26. And then for juvies, we have 3. We have 3 on our team, and they have 11 in theirs. Off to the right, that's their staffing pattern cost just for FY 2022 compared to our entire budget for FY 2023 of $5.7 million. They're still ahead of us by $2.7 million, which is kind of difficult for the underdogs, but it is what it is, right? We just get past it and do our best. As Stephen said in his opening, we do more for, what is that statement that he said? What money can't buy is what we provide our clients with effective defense work. Next slide, and we use this with our increase, I mean, we deal with attorneys and, 2 + 2, it depends. And this is not, this is math and not the law. So we hope that we are able to get the support of the legislature to provide us with the 22% increase that we are requesting for FY 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Guåhan. Thank you, Mr. Tori. I'm happy that, let's see, what page is this? When you listed the proposed amendment on the budget, 4 items, I don't think you're going to have that much reservations from most of my colleagues. You're asking to be able to hire retired attorneys. That should be an easy one. I mean, there's not a bunch of attorneys lining up for anybody, for the Attorney General or for anywhere, even the federal government. Then you've asked for if there's any money lapse, then you'll be able to carry over, if there's any. Then you ask, no transfer authority. They shouldn't be transferring out of your budget. You don't have a lot to begin with. So I'll include that. And I don't think any of my colleagues would object to that. All right, that's an easy one. Legal attorney, legal authority. Yes, your board should decide. I mean, I don't want to be the one to decide that the legislature shouldn't decide. DOA, you guys put it together. You put back it together. Yes, ma'am.
Senator, if I can just add, in our enabling legislation, we're under DOA in terms of our pay structure, and that's why we actually would like to introduce legislation to make us so that it would go to the board. We really have nothing to do with the executive branch, so we would like to see that that authority be transferred to our board of directors.
Well, if you can assist us, and if you could draft it, and then
We actually have proposed legislation that we'd like to share with you folks. I mean, we were too
please,
busy.
we'll get it done, share it with your oversight, and I'm willing to support it.
Thank
No,
you.
no problem. I mean, it makes sense,
It does.
okay? So far it does, okay? We'll see it through
Thank you.
discussion.
Thank
And
you,
then
sir.
moving along on the issues that you have, I'm going to leave it to my colleagues to ask the question. We'll begin with your oversight chair, Madam Speaker, Teresa Lai. If you have any questions for the panel.
Yes, thank you. So could you just, thank you for your presentation, it's very thorough. And congratulations on the progress that you have made throughout the year and the promises that you kept. Thank you for that. So the $1 million difference that you are requesting, a bulk of that is in pay increases. So could you just explain further, Director Hattori, you want to adopt a 7% pay increase for law enforcement and a 6% for non-law enforcement personnel instead of the 18% for law enforcement personnel that was, that the governor provided for certain line agencies' law enforcement personnel. Are you excluded from that executive order? Is that your conclusion?
Oh, yes, and they actually directed us to seek an increase with our board of trustees. And so...
What do you mean they directed you? I don't see that in the executive order.
No, the executive order actually said that we had to bring it to the Judicial Council. And so there's a paragraph there in that executive order that says that we bring the pay increase to the Judicial Council. We no longer go in front of the Judicial Council. It's directly to our Board of Trustees. And so what we did was we actually did, I think we read it that we didn't need to implement it with the executive branch, that we could actually go to the Judicial Council and they would make that decision, but we brought it to the board. And Speaker Terlahi, I'm going to share with you that if we did implement it, we're going to have some investigator ones without a college degree, just experience, making more than our attorney ones, who've come with experience and a Juris Doctorate. And so we took the position, we hold off until we get funded, or we make 5 investigators happy as opposed to the remaining 57 employees. I mean, I really believe that an attorney who went to law school and is going to make less than an investigator, that would take a lot.
I'm just looking for the authority.
Oh.
So if you could just describe the authority. So you believe it's in the executive order that you are directed to seek the Judicial Council's advice, but you're saying you sought the concurrence of your own board. And
Yes.
how many non-law enforcement personnel do you have? How many law enforcement personnel do you have?
We have 5, and APD has 2. No, I'm sorry, I take that back. We have 7, and APD has 2. So a total of 9,
And those are primarily investigators, you're saying?
merely investigators. 5 investigators, 7 from our office.
Okay, so they're all the investigators.
Yeah, and 2 from APD.
Okay, I wanted to clarify that. And is it your position that you can implement that then, whenever you can? Or you-
And that's why we're asking the
Since
legislature to
your board
offer...
approved it, are you implementing it now?
We have not implemented. We think we need authority to allow our board to implement it. And so that's why we're asking for a possible amendment to that, to allow our board that authority.
Yeah, the amendment that you're asking is for the board to be able to set the salaries for your agency separate and apart from the rest of the government of Guam, right? I'm trying to think of, for attorneys, for example, the way that the last compensation plan came out, it changed the attorney pay scales, right? So they had a new attorney pay scale. I know it affects your operations.
And
But
I don't think we
outs-
participated in that attorney pay scale adjustment. And so and I heard there's one going on right now, but we're not participating in it. So we're just
Yeah.
asking.
Well, I would recommend that contact DOA and make sure that that you are included in that. But I wanted to ask, outside of the public defenders, what other government attorneys do you think are covered by that current pay scale? It should be public defenders and the Attorney General's office. Who else? Line agencies that have counsels are very few in-house. Do you know of any others, Director?
I think I was going to say, I think, Speaker, for the attorney pay scale, the line agencies, I mean, the autonomous agencies, they have a different pay structure. We all know
Right,
that,
that's why I'm
right?
asking, what other line agencies are you aware of besides the public defender and the Attorney General's office? So if you guys get out of that pay structure would be some, you're saying, let that apply to the Attorney General's office, we're gonna have our own pay scale, like all the other, like autonomous agencies all have their own pay scales?
That's correct, because I think the judiciary, they adopt their own pay scale for their attorneys.
Right, well, they're a different branch.
I think what we're trying to suggest is that we fall in line with judiciary because we don't have any direct link to Department of Administration aside from our benefits. I mean, they make decisions for our pay structure without having us provide input. As a matter of fact, for the
Well, probably the judiciary did too, right? I don't think they asked your input when they developed their pay structure for the
No, they didn't.
judiciary, so it's dependent, right? Recently, last year or 2 years ago, we took the alternate public defender off of the judiciary's budget, and we're funding them completely. And so I guess I'm just wondering, we're going to separate from the judiciary for budgetary purposes, put that on the people of Guam, and yet when it comes to increased pay, you want to go back to the judiciary.
I
I'm
think
confused about that, but yeah, it's just a rhetorical question.
I think the same money for the alternate public defender was the same money they're asking for. What the Chief Justice wanted to do was separate out the alternate public defender, because when you folks give them the money, it's from the private attorney panel, it's lumped it for indigent defense. So their budget was under that category for indigent defense. So what the Chief Justice Carbolito wanted to do is permanentize the position, because if you folks decided not to fund
They
indigent-
created that, and we did
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah,
So that's
correct.
not the point today, right? That was done
No, yeah.
a year or two ago at least.
Correct.
So that's not my question. Is you now want to be governed by the judiciaries? Yeah, it's what I'm a little perplexed by.
Yeah, and
But I
what
can
we're-
see, because you want the pay increases, that if that's what you're going to
Well,
try to do.
and what we're really trying to do is, I mean, we're really trying to seek something where our board has the authority to issue premium pay or pay
Right.
differentials, just because of the work we do is different from the work that the AG, like civil or solicitors or child support does.
Right, so apparently, yeah, this is the issue that everybody's having. So of course, the Attorney General's office came in here with the same thing, saying their attorneys do different work, right? And I suggested the same thing to them, that if they are doing a pay study, that's when the people at DOA or whoever's doing the pay study need to be convinced that these positions are different, the work is different, and so the pay should be different. I mean, that's one avenue. The other avenue, I guess, is to follow the judiciary. Yeah, I guess there's nothing to prevent any other line agency from coming in here and saying we should follow an autonomous agency in our pay scales, which, this is the debate that goes back and forth.
Yeah.
And this is the struggle we're having when we do these compensation studies. We're trying to make them fair across the board. But okay, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you discussing that with me today. I know you said you don't expect to have any lapses, and the APD said no continuing obligations. Does the public defender have any continuing obligations?
No, we don't.
And do you utilize above-step procurement for attorneys?
So for above-step recruitment, we actually have to get our board to approve it, and so they're kind of like, sometimes they do and sometimes they don't, but it's going to, eventually be required because of, it's such a competitive market now that it will be hard to hire someone like with 15 years experience as like a step one at any level. So, but we do have we don't do it ourselves, the board is the one that authorizes it.
All right, so but you have, you have utilized that in
The
the past
above-step
year?
recruitment
And for the
procedure.
ones that you've described that you have been able to fill? And so the above-step hiring, what do they?
Recruitment.
Above-step recruitment, the categories are for hard to fill or based on exceptional skills, or, so which one do you use, that exceptional skills?
Both.
Yeah, both.
Both. Our attorney slot positions are hard to fill. I mean, and so it's a hard to fill position with attorneys. And as Senator San Agustin, we're not the only ones feeling it. And what happens is our attorneys go to the autonomous agencies because with less experience, some of our attorneys who've gone to the autonomous agencies make more than our executive director, deputy director, and managing attorney. So
No, I
it's really hard to
realize that
compete.
issue, and that's why I'm trying to get to the bottom
Yeah.
of it by asking the rationale
Yeah.
behind some of these things. Yeah, so you've been declaring them as hard to fill,
Yeah.
and that's been
The highest
legitimate.
step that we do go for any attorney position is a 5, and at attorney 1, there is no, you come in as whatever, you come in at a 1, and then it's a 1-2, but the only other attorneys that we do above step recruitments are any attorneys at a 5. So it's an attorney 2-5 or a 3-5 or a 4-5, but the limit is at 5.
And the,
But, and the last 2 attorneys we've hired, we did not hire above step. So we only use it for someone with really extensive experience.
okay, all right. And I do want you to have the experienced attorneys. I want you to be able to retain them, and so I do want to get to the bottom of those attorney pay scales, why they're not able to retain the experienced attorneys. And, all right, and then just, you did a great explanation of your, the abacus, you're digitizing your files, moving, the license fees are $55,000 and the $90,000 for the cloud. Is that an expense that you expect every year?
No, it's not an expense. Just the initial cost of getting it started would cost us about 90 grand.
Okay, great. And did you ever, after you said you got hacked, I'm curious about cybersecurity, because some of the other agencies have added that into their budget, and it seems quite expensive. And so I wanted to know so this addresses your cybersecurity or your security?
It will.
All right. Is this something your agency developed itself as sufficient, or did you consult with OTEC? I'm just curious.
We developed it ourselves. We don't fall under OTEC, and I think that for what we do, I think we're a little ahead of OTEC.
Okay, well, that's what I'm curious, because some of the other agencies have developed their own security systems, and I was wondering what's happening with the rest of the government, if they are also going to be taken care of. But, okay, so I'm glad to know that. And so I think that was my question, is the cloud. That cloud expense, hopefully that doesn't carry on every year, because that's significant.
And in the future, we're actually going to try to apply for grants to pay for, like the Byrd Jack grant. I know sometimes they, historically they've only funded law enforcement, but lately they've been actually supporting public defense firms nationwide. So this is the first year that we've ever gotten some money from the Byrd Jack grant. And in the past, I know that they've paid for case management systems for the AG's office. So we're going to be trying to get a piece of that pie in the future.
Okay. And then you said you're going to create a special space for the elder justice and the violence prevention program. Is that going to be near your offices, or do you know yet? Or is that going out for a bid?
They're actually currently set up close to APD. They're APD's neighbors. They took some of their parking stalls even. So they're not good neighbors. But so it's a separate office apart from ours, and it's great because I remember telling the chairman, our seniors, they don't want to go into public defenders because then their party will see them say like, hey, party, you gotta got picked up for DUI, you got a public defender. So they're totally separate, and it's great because our advocacy center that helps the protective order clients, they actually have a separate, they're far away from our main office.
All right, so for the elder justice, you no longer share lawyers with your public defender's services? Is
That's
that right?
correct.
'Cause that was the original plan, but
Yeah.
that's not what's going on right now.
No. I mean,
And then the offices that you've obtained, is that paid out of the ARP?
Correct.
That's correct.
So you're going to keep your current offices just for your operations? I mean, or do you
For the criminal
downsize
side.
that?
No, we'll still need it for the criminal side of the house. Our current location will be criminal, and we took space at the annex. We did an IFB prior to the start of the fiscal year for only 6 months, because that was when we would term out with our lease at our main office. So we're going to do an IFB for both offices before the end of the fiscal year. So what we did was we moved the office out of Manilao. Even though we liked the wraparound services, it was ideal, but the office space wasn't ideal. I mean, when we'd have board meetings and we'd have our EJC folks participate in the board meetings, I mean, everybody was just, they were in that small office, and it just wasn't conducive for us to do effective services for our Manamcos, so we moved them up to Sinahanya. And I would share with you that the Manamco really appreciate the fact that it's away and it's accessible to them on the first floor.
Yeah, Manila was also first floor.
Yeah,
right?
correct.
All right, and then you have a separate cost for the main domain storage. You said it's 14,000. Is that a recurring cost? Main domain storage?
Yeah, that is
14,000?
Yeah, that's a reoccurring cost.
All right, and what about the license costs?
That's also reoccurring.
55,000 every year? Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you again for your presentation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to also recognize the President, Senator Paris. Senator Tello, do you have any questions for the panel?
Yes, I do, and thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon to my colleagues and to the Public Defender and alternate Public Defender's Office for being here and all the hard work that you're doing. It's not gone unnoticed. And the caseloads, Kathy, you've always provided a great presentation. However, I just have a quick question. According to on page 6 of your PowerPoint presentation, I just wanted to verify if that's just typographical. Under miscellaneous for 65,000, you have a difference of 24,168.
Yeah.
But then when you go to page
That-
4, there's only a difference of 10,094. So.
Yeah, that was a typo.
Oh, okay, thanks. Okay. Now regarding the on the alternate public defender, regarding the cameras, security cameras, of 135,091, that's how much the total cost for these security cameras? The security camera. Oh, in your mic, please, and if you can. I can't hear if you can, sorry, and this room is so bad, so.
No, yeah, that's my bad. The security surveillance and camera maintenance add-on is $1,000.
Just 1,000, so you have an overage compared to last year of $135,091 additional funding you're requesting compared to last year.
Right, that would be the 51,000 would be see on the personnel services on that same page?
51,000?
No, I'm sorry, this would be on the budget summary digest. So it'd be 86,000 for regular salaries, and then the benefits would be 51,000. So that's 138. Oh, that's
Okay, so this.
Yeah, you're right. The 1% would just be the 1,000 for the contractual.
Oh, I see. So this amount is completely just salaries,
Yeah. The
total salaries, okay.
1.536?
Yeah, technically it's 134, and 91, and the rest, okay, so it's all salaries then?
Right.
Okay. With the, With only 1,000 for the cameras,
That's because everything else is contractual. We have it every year, so that's the only thing we're adding for contractual.
okay, I see.
And we're not at the cloud-based yet for Abacus. I think what the goal is to see how public defender does it first, and then if we transfer, then we'll probably come to the legislature to ask for that as well. But we wanted to see how they would do it first, because they have a larger caseload than we do.
Okay. So with the Arp funding, according to our records that we received from the governor's office, this is under public defender or just all around with Arp funding. May 31st, 2022, we have a report, and it showed, of course, 1.572,873 that was given to you. So it's 1.5,072,873, and the expenditures was complete. So it was fully expended at 1,572,873, leaving you a balance of 0. What I don't understand is that the funding of $378,357 coming from Arp funding to pay for Elderly Justice Center for FY23, you're talking about something in the future. But according to the documents, all money has been expended.
Well, I mean, I think they must mean that they just transferred it to us, but they
Oh,
know
I'm
that...
sorry,
Sorry.
if you can just speak into the mic,
Sorry.
even with your mask, it makes it kind of muffled,
Yeah.
sorry.
I think they must just mean that they, by expended it, it means they transferred it to our office already. So it's been transferred, but we submitted a spending plan along with that, so they know that we weren't going to spend it all at once. It's going to be used during the life of the ARP.
Well, see, I don't think that is possible. If you've got a report that is given to this body that says it's been expended, it's already been expended, you're talking about something in the future, FY23 funding.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand how that's possible. According to this, you've expended the full 1.5 million plus.
No,
No.
we did receive the money of 1.5. We set up a separate account. What we're going to use for FY 2022, we have not spent the entire amount.
FY22?
For FY
Well,
22,
that was my next question, because of the 1.5 million that you received, 72,873, it's obvious you're saying you spent okay, I tell you what, Kat, do you have an itemized description of what you spent so far with ARP money of the 1.5 million that was
we
given
do
to you?
have that. We have a
Do you have it with you?
Let me see if we have our actual expenses. Joyce, do we have our actual expenses for ARPA funds, ARP? No, we probably don't have it with us, but we didn't expend.
What is your balance? If you're saying that, well, one, you can't, I mean, if you're getting a report, to you that's saying it's been expended, which that report that we received from the governor's office says it's fully expended, okay? It's federal money, so it has to be accounted for. It has to be explained where it's been expended before it's even put on this report, especially when it comes to federal funds, right?
We understand that.
So I'm just kind of perplexed about
We did not
It's
say
zero.
that it was, but we didn't say that we expended 1.5
Right.
million. I know
Well,
that.
this report that comes to us tells us what the money is being spent on, and it says that it went to your office and it's been expended, encumbered, expended, it's zeroed out.
What we're planning to do with the money that we have, we've set aside $308,000 from the 1.5 we received for FY 2022. And
For what, 302?
308,000 for FY 2022, and into FY 2023, we project a expenditure of 378,000.
Right.
And then for a total of $500,000, and then we're going to carry that on into the 1.5 that we receive from the governor's office. We'll carry that into FY 2024 and hopefully FY 2025.
Well, you have to expend it by 2024. So you can't
calendar
take
year.
it to 2025.
Yeah, but
So-
it'll be a part of FY 2025. It'll be 6 months of FY 2025.
Yeah, our understanding, well, we have to confirm, but our understanding is there's been an extension on when you can.
I'm sorry, can you just come
There's
close?
been an extension on when you can encumber and utilize the ARPA funds, so,
Yeah.
but we just have to confirm that.
Yeah, I think so, because the report that we have here, it's the money has already been spent from your office. It's been encumbered and expended. So you.
I don't think we've ever told anybody that
Okay,
we've
so are
actually
you
spent
telling
the
me
money.
that 1.5 was deposited into your account? And of that 1.5, you are planning on spending 308,000 for FY22, and then you're going to hold off and spend 378, which is how, so that still leaves you close to, well, that's 500,000 left over, 572,000 left over. Oh, a little shy of that, but, and this 308, I'm sorry, what was that for again?
That was for the
That's for
elder-
this fiscal year.
Yeah, but what is it
Oh,
spent
the
on?
Elder Justice Center.
We have, we actually included it in our budget packet that we sent to you folks
Okay.
on page 76 of the budget packet. We include the Elder Justice Center and the ARP funding. It's in this packet that
Okay,
we.
can you just tell me what you spent the 308 on again?
We're not completely done with the fiscal year, but we have an office that we now have up until the end of the fiscal year. We've renting a car because we do visits, home visits. We've procured equipment. So we've not expended it, and we never shared that we expended it with the administration. They gave us the money, but we have it all planned out up until FY 2025, which would be the 6 months of FY 2025, into FY 2025.
Okay, well, like I said, the money has to be expended by 2024.
Yeah.
Number one.
December 2024, which would
Right.
take us into FY 2025.
Okay,
Right.
but, okay, I'm trying, what page is that on, if I
It's on
can
page
catch? Where you
77.
explain where you're spending the 308,000?
Yeah, page 76 into 77, there's a section called the Elder Justice Center.
Yes, 70,
Yeah.
page 77?
It starts on page 75.
Okay, 75. And where is the potential on the remaining amount?
We show that there would be a balance after FY 2023. We show a balance of $500,000. That'll take us into FY 2024, which will be projecting expenses for FY 2024 and into the 6 months of FY 2025.
Okay, so you're planning on using 300,000, 308,000 every year until it's expended, but
For
then
this
you have
fiscal year.
378 that's going to the elderly justice.
Correct. So for FY 2022, we're looking at expenses of $308,000. Are we right? A total, we also include in that page money that we've gotten from Division of Senior Citizens of 192 for a total of $500,000.
Wait, Kat, you're going ahead of the game. We already know that the money coming from public health goes to elderly justice at 192. We already know
Correct.
that. I'm just staying on the track of ARP funding.
Yeah, and we have that.
Okay.
We have that separated out. Column number 2 is ARP funding of 308 for FY 2022.
Yeah.
Am I missing something?
Well, just the itemizing of that money being spent, and I'll find it on this section, but I really didn't see that, the
If-
itemizing. And then if you're planning on using 308 in FY23, where's the itemizing for that money being used?
We have it in Schedule 96A.
Because right now, the only thing I see in ARP funding that you're going to be spending is 378,000, which will go to the elderly justice. But I don't see ARP funding being used for FY23 like you just explained. You're talking about FY22 at 308,000, but now you're saying you plan on using 308,000 for FY23.
Correct.
And where is that itemizing, and where are you going to spend that on? So what page is that on? That'll save you some time. and just-
76. We
Okay.
have personnel cost for ARP funding at 183,000.
Oh, 183,000.
Yeah, it's,
And that is for FY23.
20, well, no, FY22 is, we showed what our expenses are for FY22. FY23 is the column, 5 columns over, we're looking at 263,000 for personnel cost. And then 63,176 for personnel cost.
I'm sorry, again, FY what?
FY 2023.
FY23. So now you're going to use ARP funding for FY23. Yeah, that's what I was asking, just for the pages,
Yeah.
you know, to ensure that if I can look over the pages, save you some time.
Yeah.
So you are using ARP funding, okay, and then again,
Sorry.
you know, we're getting a document stating to us that you have 0 in ARP funding, you know, based on what was given to us. So I don't know how money
What
can be
we'll
all
do is-
deposited into your account and sitting there. I mean, why didn't they do that for all the other agencies?
I'm not sure, but
You
we
know.
can talk with the administration. We don't know how that works. We've never, when we got the money, we've never been given this money, grant money, and we didn't want to tell them that we got the entire amount. We were so blessed. We've never gotten federal funding like this, ever,
Right.
for any COVID-related expenses. So the administration gave us 1.5. We shared with them that they gave us 1.5.
Well,
We have,
the reason why, too, I'm asking is because you're asking for $1 million plus in additional funding. And if
we're not
you're getting
asking for
ARP-
any EJC money at all. This is just for informational purposes. There is no money that we're asking for EJC, because it's covered with ARP money as well as,
No, I understand that. What I'm saying is that you receiving additional money into the agency, you know, and when you receive that additional funding, you know, here you are asking for additional money, you know, on top of what was given to you in FY22. So it just,
we're not asking for any money for EJC at all.
Yeah, and so the ARPA money that we did receive, we're not, I don't think we're authorized to use it to,
For any of
Cover
our,
shortfalls,
yeah, we're
yeah.
not using any of that money for public defender.
none of the ARP funding.
None of the ARP, it's for the Elder Justice Center, and if, it's just set aside for the Elder Justice Center.
Okay, so the 1.5 million you received from ARP funding, all is going to the elderly. So
Elder Justice
nothing-
Center.
Okay,
Yes,
there.
correct.
Elderly justice is the only one that's going to be availing that money.
Yes, Senator.
Okay, so you guys are not. Okay, that was as simple as that.
Yes, it
But still, it's still, the 1.5 is showing,
Yeah, we'll talk with the administration.
well, we definitely, I'm going to be sending a letter
Yeah.
to the administration asking
We'll
why
let
they're
them know
putting
as
this
well.
information given to us to review money being expended. It's already gone, it's zeroed out.
No, we didn't zero it out yet, but we'll go ahead and give them the expenses that we have thus far and into FY, at the end of FY 2023, 2022.
Oh, okay. And the next question I have with regards to the lapses. Do you have any lapses from FY 2021 that was,
No, we didn't. We were,
You didn't have
no,
nothing?
we were using APDs. So in the FY 2022 budget, they provide a provision that whichever agents or department needed it, we created an account for the lapse funds. So if they needed it or we needed it, we were going to take from that separate account. So in terms of lapse fund money, we were short of what we needed for FY 2022. And so the money that was
Yeah.
available for lapses from APD, thank God for APD, totaled, let me get that for you because we do have that as well.
okay, so then if you guys are required to provide separate, appropriations, budgets separately,
Which we do.
you've been continuing to, well then, has there been any lapse from alternative public defender to?
For FY 2021, they had lapse funds of 180,000, and we were short 460 for what we would need for FY 2022. So that money from APD's 180 of their lapse funds, we're anticipating that we would use it at the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, so 180 was lapses from the alternate public defender,
Correct.
and it was placed into your public
No,
defender's?
it's placed in a separate account. We created a separate account for lapsed funds so that it could be for either APD or public defender.
Does the OPA do reports? I mean, do they do audits?
They do an audit with us, with the entire government of Guam. We're part of the government of Guam
Right, but
audit.
separately, some
Yeah,
agencies
correct.
do it.
Yes.
You haven't, okay. I noticed I didn't see an audit for public defender.
We're included with Gov Guam's.
Oh, you're included, so
Yes.
it's not separate?
Yeah.
Because I
But they-
noticed
they-
your Sentry, you're a bit late on your, the Sentry,
We didn't post it yet. We
yeah,
do-
citizen-centric report?
Yeah.
The last one was in 2019,
Correct.
so we're already at, I mean, it was published in 2020, and
We
we're
have
already
it, we
in
just haven't
22.
posted it. We'll put it up. We've
Oh, okay.
finished it, we just haven't uploaded it.
For the FY21?
Correct, correct.
Oh, okay, I appreciate that. If you could
Sure.
put that one up, there's
We
a
could
lot of
even send it to
information. Okay, yes, I appreciate that, but it's not on your website.
Okay.
Okay, so if you can incorporate that. In the public, so the lapses are carried over, right? Anything left over from alternate goes in this separate account. What is the balance of that account?
The balance of that account in lapsed funds,
Right.
we're looking at probably about $500,000.
500,000 is sitting in that account?
So we both have the lapsed funds, both APD and public defender. And so the lapsed funds from FY 2021, where they had authorized either agency or department, we separated that out so that if they were short or we're short, we take from the lapsed funds from FY 2021.
Okay, so you have a balance in that lapse fund, and that was from the FY21?
Correct, correct.
That's quite a bit of lapse funds just for 1 year. Is some of that from FY20?
That wasn't from just one fiscal year. That was an accumulation of fiscal years.
Oh, several fiscal years.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
that's the
we-
problem with a lot of agencies, is they're not
Yeah.
closing their books on what they've spent, throughout the years, and that we're starting to see that. Like, if you've got funding, if you had lapse funds from FY19,
Yeah.
or FY20, let's go to FY20, and it's put in this lapse funds, but you can't close the books until you've completely spent all that funding. So what you've done is accumulated this account with a balance of $500,000 in this lapse account. So this funding, we can't tell if that's, did you pay off 2020, or did you close the book for 2020? Did you close the book for
we did close-
2019?
We were able to hold on to the lapsed funds. It's been something that both APD and Public Defender both have lapsed funds available. And so we're able to hold off, and we've used that when we have a budget shortfall. We would go back into the board and say, okay, we're short, so we need that money to make up for the budget shortfall.
So, Mr. Chair, there is a $500,000, $500,000 in this account that they created for lapsed funds. Noted. The last so this is, yeah. A resolution, usually you run by a board, Mr., not director, but yeah, you have a board that needs to, I guess they put out a resolution regarding your budget. Was it concurring to what we received today?
Yes.
Okay, so the resolution is out? Okay.
Oh, yes.
Is that in the booklet, the resolution? Okay.
It's in the budget packet.
And it does concur with the amount that you requested?
Correct.
And regarding the board that oversees your office, how long is your term as the administrator?
Are you for Stephen?
Yeah,
Well, there's really no term.
there is no term
Yeah, so technically serve at will, I guess.
of the board? So you're an appointed by the board?
That's
And there's
correct.
no limited term on that?
Yeah.
Okay. Only grant you have is under the elderly? That's it?
Well, we also received under the STOP grant. So we received the STOP grant, and then there's an ICJR grant. So but that funds our protective order, like our victim advocates, and pays for that side of the house. It doesn't support any of the criminal side. Do you know what the amount is?
When it comes to serving the community, oh, I'm sorry, there's some,
Yeah.
do you want to share anything?
No, I don't know the exact
Okay,
amount
okay,
that
no worries.
the grant is.
When it comes to, serving the indigent based on your guidelines, your mission and description, who determines that amount, that scale?
So the
Who-
board,
who- yeah.
the board's, the
And-
schedule is approved by the board.
Okay.
And we are obviously going to have to revamp that because it's really outdated. I think it's like from 2005 or something.
The last time it was adjusted was in 2005?
Yeah, but it was, when it was
Holy moly.
adjusted, it was pretty high by national standards. So if we adopt the same ratio, it'll go up quite a bit.
So someone who's making 10,000 a year or who's considered indigent, from 2005 to today's time is substantially different. So when's the next time do you guys plan on making that adjustment for, who you considered as an indigent, who
Yeah.
qualifies as an indigent?
So, well, we actually haven't started that process. It's really just a matter of adopting the GURA or public health. National Public Health, they have a poverty level.
So is
And-
that constant every year that you look at that, or?
Well, no, we haven't looked at it in about, I would say, 10, 15 years.
Ooh,
But, for example, if you make $10 an hour by yourself, no dependents, then you qualify for our services. And so, but we definitely, I really want to increase the amount because, clearly it's outdated. So that's
When-
something we're working on.
working on, how long is it going to take for you to do that? Because,
It
I
should-
know people who are only making, very little amount. and-
I think what we could do is have the BJA, when they're doing their study for us with the caseload for the attorneys, that's something that we can also include as a part of their assistance. This is the Bureau of Justice Assistance Grant that we're hoping to get by October 2020. When was it? October 2022, and the completed project would be in July of 23. But we can include, that it'll be a comprehensive study, and we can suggest that they include that. We actually had a BJA grant that we completed out in FY 2020 that allowed us to complete our strategic plan. And so it was just a piggyback on what we've done, and we got BJA assistance. So that's something that we can include as a part of their assistance.
I think something like this.
No, Senator, I promise, we'll work on that in the next month or two. It's something that we've been wanting to do for a while, but we just
Do you
need a
need
little kick.
legislation in order
No.
for you to do this? Because if this body decides to put out a bill that requires the agency to, review this every 3 years, every 2, and not wait 15 years before, adjusting to inflation and the cost of living for individuals who are considered indigent.
Yeah.
15 years is an awful long time.
No, I totally agree, and no, we are going to work on it. We're going to make sure that it slides as the national level slides as well, so we won't have to address it every year. They should have put in some language saying that as the federal poverty
Right, there is
level
a
goes up, it
federal
goes up,
scale.
yeah.
But
So
you-
we'll do that, Senator. I'm so glad you brought it up because it's really something we've been wanting to work on, but we've been doing some other things, but we'll prioritize that, I promise.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who can avail with these
And,
opportunities, but can't because nobody has adjusted the
and
cost.
And
or
the courts have been pretty generous when they interpret our guidelines because they know that our guidelines are outdated too. So, but we need to make it official so that no one gets in trouble for it. So, but thank you for bringing it up. It really is a priority of ours, so we'll work on that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Then the last question I have is vacant in FY22. Did you have any vacant positions that were budgeted for in FY22?
What we did with our vacant positions is we had LTAs fill them, and right now we have a job announcements out for all. As a matter of fact, they've all closed.
Okay, again,
So-
do you have any vacant positions that
No,
were
then I'm-
budgeted for in FY22?
We filled them, yeah, no.
Okay, you had none in FY22. Did you
No.
have any vacant positions budgeted for in the budget for FY21?
So
No.
I mean, we always lose employees along the way, so at some point, there's always vacancies, but we've not asked for any new positions in the last
Okay,
couple
Okay.
years. So any position that is vacant now has always been on our, we're not asking for any new employees.
okay, so I just want to make sure, Mr. Administrator, that there have been no vacant appropriated for FY22, right, positions?
The-
And in this budget that you're presenting us in FY23, have you budgeted and requested for any funding for any vacant positions?
Well, so we do have positions that are vacant that, but once we fill them, but we're not asking for any new positions.
Okay, it's not budgeted then? You have not requested for any funding for those
Oh,
positions?
yeah,
Okay,
like, for example.
that's all I needed to know.
Yeah, so like, like the Outer Justice Center, we have staff that we need to support the Mononco, but we've been using ARP money for that, and so we're not going to ask the legislature to appropriate funds for that.
Do you have
Okay.
any other questions, Senator Tyree?
Yes, sir. Am I done? Yes, I am.
Okay.
Thank you
Senator.
again
Thank
so
you.
much for answering my questions, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Torrey, you're appointed by your board?
Yes.
Okay. If there's action that the board needs to do, please advise them to do the action. I highly recommend you don't respond as if you're the board. Let the board make those decisions. Okay?
Thank
You're appointed by the board. Senator Brown, do you have any questions for the panel?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Certainly a lot of questions have been asked, and I certainly appreciate the presentation. We're in a very interesting situation here with regards to your particular agency and a number of others in Guam where the administration has provided federal funding, usurping the authority of the legislature to appropriate. And even though it's for a very good cause, I don't think we can argue the importance of the Elder Justice Center. Certainly as we all enter into senior years here, I think we can appreciate the need for the service. Contrary to your comment, there was a request by a member of the legislature on the floor to budget the Elder Justice Center. It was disapproved. And the governor, again, we're in a very unique situation because we have an imbalance of power right now, where the administration, because of the federal funding, is now deciding at her leisure how this money is going to be spent. And you have questions from us on what it's being spent on, because we don't have an accounting publicly, nor do the people, with regards to how these funds are being spent. I had a different position to the majority of the legislature in this last budget. I didn't think we should be budgeting for agencies without knowing how the federal funds were going to be spent, because I felt we should offset if there are areas we can offset. If there were some long-term or more critical needs of an agency that we couldn't fund, perhaps that money could be used to do that. Because we want to be able to sustain the operations and not end up in a situation. I love the comments about how, we'll work with the legislature to continue to fund. We'll work with the legislature to continue to fund these pay increases and these, federal funded projects that the administration has put forth. And that's nice, but, we don't have a bank behind us with money sitting in it that we're holding from the people. And I am putting this out because I just want to put that word of caution, because that's the reality. I don't think we're heading into better times ahead. I think the quality of life of our people with these continued increases to the cost of living are going to make it even more difficult. Like I said, the only thing I see getting cheaper today is the cost of drugs, illegal drugs on the street. So I'm letting you know that ahead of time. I don't know that I'll be here, but perhaps there'll be other members of the legislature in the future sitting here when the time comes, and it will come. Whether there will be funds to pay for some of the programs that you have. And I think it's always important, if you're managing an operation, to be prepared. That in the event that there is ending, and inevitably there are going to be decreases in the Guam budget, how you're going to prioritize that. because I think the Elder Justice Center is a very good program in providing that assistance to members, especially elderly in our community that otherwise may not have this service. But how it's come to be in existence to me is problematic, because then we're expected somehow to pay for that. Started at $500,000, and then after it was disapproved by the legislature, the governor provided those funds. And the one thing that has grown during this pandemic is the cost of operating this government, and I think to a level that our people are not going to be able to afford to pay for it. You know, that reality is very clear with a lot of the businesses that have closed down, a lot of the businesses that are still not even operating at any level to take us even to where we were in 2019. So I'm just putting that out to be cautious and be mindful, because it's nice that the money's there and the fact that you're planning over several budget years to be able to accommodate the program. But I'm troubled a little bit, and I don't have any problem with raises if they're earned. I mean, that's why we have the normal increment process through the Government of Guam. But it's become very political this year with regards to pay raises. And again, when I hear continued requests for pay raises, when there's a substantial amount of our economy that's not going to be able to afford it, I see the disconnect between the Government of Guam and the rest of reality in the community that I see and hear. I'm sure you do too, whether we want to acknowledge or not. We didn't lose a paycheck. And yet on top of that, we want more and more. And again, I just put that word of caution because I think that's a real reality. This legislature in particular loves to spend money. And this is my 7th legislature. The last 6 that I were in, I did not live in this time of plenty. Some years we had to redo the budget several times because we did not have enough to get through the fiscal year. So that's just my experience. Maybe it doesn't apply to everybody else, but I'm a little cautious when we're so happy to spend, especially a few months before an election. And then at the end of the day, who's left holding the bag? It's going to be our people and our community. And so I have nothing against the work that you do. I think you provide a very valuable service to our community. I think the Elder Justice Center provides a valuable service to our elderly. But again, you're using funds that didn't come from this government, and the ability to sustain down the road, that's a big question mark. So I think that's something you need to look at, irrelevant of who's going to be in the legislature or who's going to be in the administration. I mean, we can only generate so much money, and while we anticipated a certain degree of increase for the next 10-year period, we're 4 years into that 10-year period of military spending, I don't think that's going to be enough to sustain the considerable growth of government and cost of government. And while you want to compare yourself to to the Attorney General's office or compare yourself to autonomous agencies, I understand you may lose an attorney here or there to an autonomous agency, but they don't have a fleet of attorneys that are working in any autonomous agency that I'm aware of. So I appreciate that, but I'm just bringing this up because to me that's the reality of where I see things, and I think you need to be mindful and be prepared for it when it does come. So with that, Mr. Chair, I don't have any further questions or comments. I do appreciate the thoroughness of your presentation, and by all means, I think, yes, if you can provide the committee the breakdown of your intended use of the federal funds or what has already been expended, I think that would be helpful for us to be aware of how it's been used.
Yeah, and Senator, I just want to say that we are treating the money like a grant. We know it's not going to last forever, so we're trying to be frugal, make it last as long as it can, so we could provide the services as long as possible. So nobody's classified in that section, and so there's an understanding that the money eventually will run out, but we'll be doing it as long as we can.
No, and I have nothing against what you're doing or your efforts. I appreciate the fact. I mean, the fact that you're not using it all in 1 year and you're extending over try to do several years to cover the program. I think that's to be commended. But again, it's the source of it. It's how it came to be, because normally, the normal process in our democracy is we decide, we hold the purse strings of the government, and the administration has very much gone around that. They have not shown their cards very upfront with regards to how the money's being spent. We get a listing from government agencies, and now we have some inaccuracy because it's saying that you've expended all your funds. That's all we get. We get a department, we get this is what they've expended, this is what's remained. That's all we get. That's all the people of Guam have been getting, unless we inquire directly from that agency or department and they provide a breakdown of what's, and that, yes, I mean, I'm sure they have to account to their federal partners, but that money was not given to the administration. It was given to our people. And so, to make sure that everything's on the up and up, it's always good to make sure it's on the table so everyone can see what's there and how it's being used. But the disadvantage down the road, which may not be that far down the road, is these expenditures have been used for all kinds of things that many people can probably say, I don't see how that's pandemically related. We're using it as a windfall to pick and choose our favorite projects that we want to fund, or our favorite senators that have their projects that they want to fund that they can't get through the legislature. So, you know, I'm sorry, those are the realities, and I'm not here to sugarcoat it. I just think we need to ensure that our public and that we're being accountable for the money that we have and deal with the reality that this is a short-term benefit that's going to disappear. And yet, the burdens and responsibilities have been added on to the taxpayers of Guam don't disappear because they've been added on. So I'm not saying you're not using your money responsibly, but you know, it's just a reality of where we are. I did have one question, yes. With night differential on your budget, who is that being paid for? Does it get paid to your investigators, or is that primarily who it is? Because if they have
Correct.
investigation work to do after
Correct.
hours, so that would be
Correct.
just solely to your investigators.
Just for the investigators.
Yes, gosh, I always got to ask about this drug testing. Are any of your positions in your office, I assume maybe your investigators, are they designated positions?
What do you mean by designated positions?
When the government of Guam, there's a listing of designated positions that would require, should have regular drug testing.
All our positions.
There are specific positions, you know, it depends on the work that you do, or if you're a bus driver, where it involves
We go
physical
through the drug
safety,
testing.
your operating equipment, if you're law enforcement.
We do drug testing before actual employment in.
Yeah, I understand, that's pretty standard for all of Gov Guam, but do you have designated positions
No.
in the
No,
public
we
defender's
don't.
office?
We don't.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to ask that, as I ask of every government agencies. We know we have a major drug pandemic on the island, but I'm finding we have almost little to no drug testing of any consistency that's going on in the government. And again, we're not aligned. We should be setting the example by, you understand. I don't think I need to elaborate. I'm sure many of the ills of our society that are occurring out there as a result of it, you're having to deal with the people that you're defending as well, and victims, individuals who've been victimized by this. So with that, thank you. Thank you very much, I guess, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to comment and ask questions.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the public defender and the alternate public defender for being here, especially for your work helping us execute the work of the Elder Justice Center over the last several months. We've seen that it's been a great help to the community, to our seniors who have relied on this service, and how many we've been able to help has been very impressive and has showed us the need of what is out there in our community, that this service is truly needed. And so I appreciate that from the Committee on Senior Citizens, your work together, in addition to all the other duties that you do. I'm very appreciative of that. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Shelton. For the two agencies, thank you for showing up for your budget hearing. And I know in the past, they pretty much don't call you guys in, but we wanted to make sure we did it this year, heading into the new year. And like I stated earlier, Mr. Artori, you're appointed by the board. Please pass on the information to the board so they can take the appropriate action, so that we don't assume you're speaking for the board, because you're not.
Oh, yeah, definitely not
You're
speaking
definitely
for
not,
the board.
so please allow them to be able to respond. And with that, the committee will conclude this budget hearing. The committee will continue to receive testimony. Please address your written testimony to the Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, and Housing, and submit it via email to Senator Joe S. @gmail.com, or to my office located at Rand Care Building, 2nd floor, Suite 3, 761 South Marine Corps Drive, Tamuning, Guam. Jesus Masi for your attendance and participating in today's hearing. And for those at home, thank you for watching the budget hearing on Bill 276-36 CR relative to the alternate public defender and public defender Services Corporation is duly heard and is now adjourned. It is 3:44. Please be safe and have a nice day. Thank you.